Experts labeling Starship's heat shield a potential dead end could push the next full orbital refueling attempt back by months. This is SpaceX Daily, episode 65. Multiple analysts argue the current tile attachment method on the ship upper stage fails to address repeated thermal cycling stresses seen in prior flights. The design relies on mechanical fasteners that experts say cannot maintain alignment after several re-entries without added mass or active cooling. Musk has publicly stated the problem is resolved for upcoming missions, yet the sources note no new test data has been released to support that claim. Engineers at competing programs have pointed to ablative alternatives that trade higher per-flight cost for simpler qualification. Watch for whether the next ship flight test uses an updated tile layout or reverts to the prior configuration. From an engineering standpoint, the Starship heat shield attachment method now under debate illustrates a classic trade-off between mass and reusability. Tiles must survive peak re-entry heating above 1,400 degrees Celsius, while remaining attached through multiple cycles of vibration, expansion, and contraction. Current mechanical fasteners allow relatively quick replacement on the ground, yet they introduce local stress concentrations that grow with each flight. An ablative coating alternative would eliminate the attachment problem but would add several hundred kilograms per ship and require a new production line for the ablative material itself. The gap between raw material cost of the tiles and the finished, qualified assembly is the idiot index for this subsystem. Each additional flight that forces tile replacement multiplies that index. Closing the gap therefore depends on either proving the fasteners survive a target number of cycles or shifting to a monolithic heat shield approach that accepts higher per-flight mass in exchange for simpler qualification. The next ship flight test will show whether the present design meets the cycle life requirement or whether the program must accept one of the heavier alternatives. Mechanical fasteners reduce ground turnaround time because individual tiles can be swapped without rebuilding large sections of the vehicle. That speed advantage only holds if the fasteners themselves survive the full thermal and mechanical load spectrum across repeated missions. Ablative materials, by contrast, erode predictably during each re-entry, and therefore remove the need for precise alignment after every flight. The raw material cost of an ablative layer is low, yet the added mass directly reduces payload capacity to orbit and raises the propellant load required for every subsequent mission. Engineers must therefore weigh the recurring mass penalty against the one-time qualification cost of a fastener system that may never reach the needed cycle count. If the current tile layout proves insufficient, the program faces a clear decision point on whether to accept the mass increase of an ablative shield or invest in an entirely new attachment architecture. Either path affects the timeline for orbital refueling demonstrations that rely on rapid ship reuse. The data from the upcoming flight will therefore directly inform whether the heat shield subsystem remains on the critical path or whether attention can shift to other Starship systems, such as propellant transfer hardware. Turning now to constellation scaling, Musk stated the V3 satellites will deliver roughly 100 times the bandwidth of current V2 units through larger phased array antennas and higher power amplifiers. ARK Invest's Cathie highlighted the throughput jump as a key driver for enterprise and direct-to-cell markets. The projection assumes a constellation size of several thousand V3 satellites operating in lower orbits. No timeline for first V3 launches was provided in the remarks. Meanwhile, T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert questioned Starlink's differentiation in the direct-to-cell market, noting existing terrestrial networks already cover most populated areas. SpaceX has spent several $billions acquiring spectrum licenses in recent months. The comments came during an earnings call where Sievert argued spectrum alone does not guarantee service quality. Starlink direct-to-cell trials continue with partner carriers in select regions. On the launch side, the August 10th mission will fly from Space Launch Complex 40 using a Falcon 9 first stage on its 23rd flight. Payload consists of 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites equipped with laser intersatellite links. The launch window opens at 12 p.m. UTC and closes at 2:30 p.m. UTC. If successful, the booster will attempt a downrange drone ship landing. This marks the 18th Falcon 9 flight from the Cape this year. Observers on X noted the August 10th Starlink mission will be the first Cape launch using a booster that previously flew a national security payload. Local spotters in Florida posted updated road closure maps for the expected 12 p.m. UTC window. Several accounts highlighted that the Vandenberg launch surge has driven new housing demand in Lompoc and Santa Maria. Shifting to regional growth, Vandenberg Space Force Base has hosted 50 Falcon launches so far this year, the highest annual total from the site. Local suppliers in Paso Robles and San Luis Obispo are expanding machine shops to support Starlink antenna production and ground station hardware. County officials report a 35% rise in aerospace-related building permits since 2024. The growth is tied to both national security payloads and commercial constellation replenishment. Worth keeping an eye on, T-Mobile's CEO argued that Starlink lacks meaningful differentiation in the mobile broadband market even after spectrum purchases. The claim rests on the view that terrestrial 5G already serves most high-value areas. Resolving the point would require Starlink to demonstrate reliable coverage in regions where carriers have no economic incentive to build towers. On the AI front, xAI's pivot to a neo-cloud offering is consuming the majority of SpaceX capital expenditure, according to a Morningstar analysis. The report tracks how compute spend now exceeds Starlink ground infrastructure outlays. Cursor's head of talent stated that AI prompt engineering roles are seeing the highest application volume in the company's history. AI's fluctuating power draw is causing thermal stress inside multiple large data center facilities, per NDTV profit reporting. The volatility shortens equipment life and raises cooling costs beyond original projections. Reports indicate the Cursor brand may be retired after the SpaceX acquisition closes, with product features folded into Grok tooling. A quick market note, SPCX closed at $133.11, down 0.7%. Before we go, Starship heat shield data from the next flight will clarify whether the current attachment approach scales. That covers everything worth knowing about SpaceX today. SPCX is trading at $133.11, down 0.7%. A quick rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify goes a long way. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you tomorrow. This show comes to you from the NERA network. If you want another sharp daily briefing, Offshore North has you covered. Offshore ocean racing explained every Monday with a Canadian angle. All our shows are free at neranetwork.com. Live dashboards, TSLA, SpaceX launches, the investing scoreboard are all at neranetwork.com/data. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.